I feel like we have to talk about the Lakers and Timberwolves game first. I was ecstatic when Anthony Edwards hit the clutch three that basically sealed the game.
Mhm.
He was amazing in the last 5 minutes of this basketball game. And I think Anthony Edwards has just taken a noticeable leap in his playmaking that some people didn't think was possible. He had 29 points and 8 assists tonight and 8 rebounds as well. And I feel like the amount of passes that he's making, difficult passes that he's making, is far more than what we were seeing even a couple months ago. He is steadily
Mhm.
improving in that area of his game.
Yeah, that's been one of the biggest keys, I think, especially down the stretch in these tight fourth quarters where the T Wolves in past seasons have relied on him as the engine, and he would show growth in moments, but it wasn't consistent. And I feel so far in this Lakers series, one of the biggest, if not the biggest takeaway is the fact that he's been able to control the game more methodically as the decision maker and leverages more of that elite scoring value that he's been a phenomenal postseason scorer. But being able to translate that to getting all of your teammates going is what allowed them in these tight games to kind of have an edge that they didn't last season, maybe. That consistency is what gets guys like Nas Reed and Mike Conley going, who I guess you consider a bit of an X factor. And so far in the series, it feels like Minnesota's got the more complete group. They have a deeper bench. And I feel like it's Ant-Man's playmaking that kind of activates those guys to play more consistent than they have in past years.
I feel like the Lakers lost this game on two things. Number one, the turnovers. They had twice as many turnovers as Minnesota. And number two, Luca didn't have a good game. He was dealing with
Mhm.
food poisoning, I believe it was. He was sick, and you can probably say that's why he played poorly. But there was a play that stuck out to me when Jaden McDaniels is running in transition after a steal, and Luka Doncic is looking at the referee, and he's just looking at it, thinking that they blew a whistle, and he just lets Jaden McDaniels run right past him and get an easy transition bucket. And those are one of those moments where you're like, Luka, you gotta guard the man in front of you and try to
Mhm.
stop a bucket. These are the last couple of minutes of the game.
Yeah. That's been a big question, I feel like, for this Laker team, where last season the Mavericks had an infrastructure to clean up a lot of Luka's mistakes. With Daniel Gafford and then Derek Lively off the bench, you had 48 minutes of rim protection and then quality defensive wins around Luka, where on their path to the finals, you're able to disguise him. And I feel like this Laker team doesn't have the same infrastructure, especially behind him in the paint. And there's some things with Luka where I feel like if he is banged up and not 100%, you see that effort wax and wane on the defensive end, which it's obviously an issue. I do feel like him not being physically healthy, or of course he's dealing with an illness, that's something where you hope it just doesn't translate into the rest of the series. If it's a one night thing, the Lakers can live with that. But if that's something you see again in game four, that becomes a pretty big issue. Because, like I said, it's not like you have cleaners behind him and on the perimeter that can kind of mitigate those lapses.
That's the biggest problem with the Lakers. And Jaden McDaniels mentioned it when he was interviewed after the game. He said they don't have any rim protectors. We're just trying to attack them because they don't
Mhm,
have any out there. Jackson Hayes is unplayable in this series. He played 9 minutes in this game,
mhm.
non-factor, and the Timberwolves almost had 60 points in the paint. I think that people overlooked this big weakness the Lakers had because of the star power that they had, but it's pretty apparent that they don't have any big, and it's a big problem. And Minnesota has done a beautiful job in transitioning away from Rudy Gobert in these high leverage moments. And Rudy
Mhm.
Gobert is a fascinating player because we all understand his impact on defense, but on offense, he can't make smaller teams pay in the way that you need a big man to make them pay because of his
Right.
lack of offensive game.
And that's always been the misconception with him. For the longest time, people have always picked at him, and you'll find clips online of Luca or maybe Terrence Mann teeing off corner threes, to where there's a lot of misconceptions around Rudy Gobert. He's never played off the floor because of what he does defensively. And if anything, he's usually been the one that's holding the dam together in that on the floor. It's in key series, like I think of 2021 versus the Clippers, he can't score on Reggie Jackson, who's 7 8 inches shorter on him in the post. And that's been something where in a game like this, of course, he only plays 25 minutes, does not take a shot attempt. And you look at the Lakers, of course, they want to go 5 on out, and it feels like Minnesota's been able to match that with their perimeter play in the series. But again, I feel like for a big man that is playing 25 minutes a game and not take a single shot attempt, it emphasizes, for as great as a defensive player as he is, 4-time defensive player of the year, he's never being played off the floor for that. Sure, he can't guard Luke in isolation, maybe as well as a Bam Adebayo, but guys like Bam or Evan Mobley are such rare unicorns. Not many bigs can. So I feel like in a game like this, you need him to get something going, whether it's duck-ins, flip shots, and quite frankly, he doesn't have the touch and the hands around the rim to, like, if he hits a Zubats, it's a good example of this in the Nugget series. If Kawhi or James Harden's out the game, you can get it to Zubats and he'll have efficient scoring inside 10 feet because around the rim, he's really good. But with Gobert, that's always the reason why you don't see him playing maybe as much as a guy that's getting paid as him would. So that's always bothered me, that misconception with him. I feel like the NBA media has not done a good enough job of highlighting that.
Now I see this comment in the chat. If we're going to talk about the draft, we will, because Shadur Sanders still has not been drafted.
That was crazy to me, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, we will get to that. Minnesota's done a beautiful job in just transitioning to small ball. The Nas Reed, Randall, Dante, Edwards, and McDaniels lineup was lethal for them in the fourth quarter to close out the game. How about Jaden McDaniels with 30 points tonight and played amazing defense? Luka Doncic, sick or not, he played amazing defense and he had 30. And this is his second 20-plus point game in this series. I think that his offensive leap that we saw after the new year is very real. And when he has ample opportunity and he's able to attack mismatches, he looks like this. This is the most confident that he's ever looked. And if they're getting this version of Jaden McDaniels, not 30 every night, but a consistent offensive threat, it just changes things for them.
If you're getting 25 points from him on the efficiency he's given them in games 1 and 3, like you said, of course, not only changes things for them, but it gives them an extra layer to their ceiling. Because in this game, he goes 12 to 17 from 2. The question with Jaden McDaniels has always been consistency on the offensive end, because you have a fluid 6'9" Wayne that can handle a little bit, is really good around the rim. And it's really just been a matter of him consistently applying himself there. And I feel like in the second half of the season, he had one of the biggest turnarounds on the offensive end where Minnesota could start to rely on him as that 4 to that 5, as someone who's going to be really consistent, whether it's an offensive rebounder, a cutter, off-ball mover. And then you add in the shooting, which is obviously the biggest question for him. But I feel like for him to give you the defensive value that he has so far in the series, done as good of a job as you can possibly ask on Luka. When you think of Luka stoppers, it's really just Jaylen Brown and then Wiggins in that 2022 Conference Final Series. But Jaden McDaniels so far has given himself the right to continue showing, I am one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA, and I have the versatility. So I feel like he's been not only the biggest X factor, he's the reason why they're up 2-1 in the series. So I feel like if they can get that for the rest of this playoff run, we talk about the Clippers, who are playing very well. They dominated the Nuggets yesterday. We talk about the Thunder, but that immediately puts Minnesota in that top 3 conversation, which they were in for the better part of this year. I think we forget just how good this team was in the regular season, whether it was a top 5 net rating or a top 10 offense or a top 10 defense. And when he's playing at this height, they're good enough to beat any team in the Western Conference. And that includes Oklahoma City if you have Anthony Edwards playing as well as he has in the series.
Now, John, I got a take for you. I think the Timberwolves are winning this series. After 3 games, from what I've seen, up 2 games to 1. I think they're the better team. I think they have more positional versatility. They have better players. The stars for the Lakers are there, but then you look at 4 to 10, it's all Timberwolves players.
Yeah.
I like them a lot. And not only do I like them in this series, but I think they're making a conference finals. With Jimmy Butler's injury, even if they get past Houston, I think it's going to be very difficult to get past Minnesota as well with how amped up they're playing. And I think they're more experienced than the Houston Rockets. I think if the Timberwolves win this series, they're going all the way to the Western Conference Finals.
I could see that. I feel like one thing we mentioned so far, LeBron tonight gave you the absolute best version of himself you can possibly ask for. 20 in the first half, finishes this game with 38 and 10, great efficiency, played one of his best games. And while Luka struggled, it does seem like in the series when Luka has played well, LeBron has struggled. And when LeBron plays an A-plus game, Luka is playing poorly in that matchup. Considering how much versatility they have on the defensive end, Minnesota that is, and just how solid of a job they've done on Austin Reeves as well. Today, he does have 20 points, 18 shots. But coming into the series, the big question was how can they guard all 3 of them? And it was how can they match up physically with Luka after losing in 5 in last year's conference finals? When you have the 3 of those guys not clicking at the same time, I had the Lakers in 7 games. This was the series I wrestled with most. And it was easy for me to see Minnesota playing well enough to win the series. But I feel like with what we've seen so far from LA, it's not a great matchup for them. And it's different than last year with Dallas that had a completely different lineup around Luka. I feel like it showed for as great as Luka has been in the past, and he's a great playoff performer, you're not getting that same portability and supporting cast. And that makes a world of a difference when the Mavericks last year winning the series in 5, and this year Minnesota can win in 6 games.
The Lakers don't have the defensive personnel to stay in front of anybody on Minnesota.
Mhm,
And I think what gets underrated with the Dallas Mavericks team is that not only do they have good defenders, but they had great rim protectors. And this Lakers team doesn't have that either. Nobody is afraid to attack the basket on Minnesota. McDaniels, Randall, Edwards, they're all getting whatever they want. The play that stood out to me the most was when Anthony Edwards tried to go hero ball late in the fourth, but they double teamed him hard, and he still was able to split it and get to the basket. And he
mhm,
should have kicked it out to Nas Reed in the corner, but that's just what it's been. Even if they double team him, he's still able to split it and beat it. And I think that with the Lakers, they're always giving something up defensively because they know they can't stay in front of anybody.
mhm,
They're leaving somebody open from three. And when you leave somebody open from three, Jaden McDaniels, he's not taking those 3-point shots, but he is attacking closeouts and getting to that short mid range spot, and he's hitting those more efficient shots for him. So I think the Wolves, after game one, that was a dominant performance. The Lakers took game two. That was a dominant performance as well. But
mhm.
game three, it was a game that we saw both teams in a clutch and Minnesota able to win that clutch game. And that gives me a lot of optimism for maybe this team can be good in clutch offense. Maybe they're figuring it out a little bit, especially against the Lakers defense that they just don't have the personnel to guard them. And I think that's the biggest thing they're going to have to wrestle with because Minnesota, they don't have to sacrifice things on defense like the Lakers do. And that's
No.
why I think the Lakers are more vulnerable on that end than Minnesota.